Ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you?
It's time to flip a coin and find out.
Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here.
We're calling it to see who's got the best sports knowledge here on the Coin Flip with Martin Kelly
and Jacob Zimmerman. Flip it again.
And welcome on back to the Coin Flip Podcast. Jacob Zimmerman, Martin Kelly. We are here to give you Week 2 predictions. Last week, if you saw them, we got them right here in case you didn't. We did our Week 1 NFL predictions. We are so happy that football on the gridiron on the professional level is back. Both of our favorite teams are in action. One game down in the books. And Martin, we did our predictions. We did our money line or outright predictions for all 16 matchups a week ago. We did it the Sunday beforehand. We're doing it on the Tuesday before Week 2. And so a quick review of Week 1. But Martin, before we dive into how we did with our prediction records, give me your overall thoughts on how the week was.
You know, Week 1 was a pretty dang fun week. There was a lot of great games. There was a lot of blowouts. There was a lot of weirdness that went in the games. The Jaguars game where the fumble was considered a touchdown. The Patriots almost came back against the Eagles. Tua Tagovailoa turned into Dan Marino for a day. The Cowboys spanked the Giants. The Bills somehow blew up in their own faces and became the Jets, and the Jets became the Bills. So I don't know how that happened. And yeah, we saw a lot of fun games. And on top of it, Jacob, we have to give a shout out to your former teammate, your former high school teammate, a teammate you won 2 state championships with, or possibly 3. I think you told me 3. You'll correct me in a second. Puka Nacua had himself a game, had 10 receptions, tied Antoine Bolden and a couple other guys on their rookie debuts to have that many receptions. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Martin, we'll be talking a lot more about the Rams and Puka Nacua, and yes, it was one with me on the team. I was a senior when it started the 4-peat. But Martin, in front of everybody, what we're all looking at right now is the spreadsheet I've been working on. We have the matchups from Week 1. We have the closing spread right before kickoff. We've got the final scores and the winner. And Martin, most importantly, we do these predictions, and it's fun to kind of reflect on the results. Martin, in front of us, you get basically, it's a 1 if you got it correct. It's a 0 if you didn't. You add it all up. That's going to be your record at the end. Pretty easy key to go by. Martin, there was a couple games that we both hit. For example, we were both correct on Baltimore beating the Texans, the Saints getting the victory over the Titans, the Washington Commanders handling business against the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cowboys got it done. We both picked them in big fashion against the Giants. But Martin, there was 2 contests that we both got flat out wrong. Both of us missed our Bears pick, and both of us whiffed on the Minnesota Vikings as well. The Vikings, big upset in our eyes from Week 1. But Martin, are you ready to see what our overall records were in all 16 matchups from Week 1?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see how bad we did.
Martin, I went 12-4, and you, my man, may have lost some money over the weekend. You still got the house, you still got the car, but your pockets might not be as deep as they once were. 6-11 for Martino, 12-4 for Jacob. And Martin, I might add, I hit 5 underdog picks. All of your picks that hit were favorites. Your reaction?
It's just another week in the NFL. I don't bet on anything when it comes to money. I've stopped doing that. It's just, it is what it is. Sometimes I have fun with it, maybe with hockey or basketball, but the NFL and betting is just too hard.
All jokes here on the Coin Flip Podcast. So we will have this record continue on throughout the season, but we'll certainly award each winner by week. So Martino, without further ado, are you ready to dive into Week 2 in the National Football League?
Let's do it.
Starting off here on the Thursday night game, the Vikings looking to bounce back after their stunning Week 1 loss, and the Eagles looking to hold strong here at home after a quick trip to Foxborough. Martino, the line right now, as of Tuesday, is Philly -7, but we're going just outright picks. Who wins it? Martin, I'm going to take the Eagles on this one as I'm going to start our timer we're implementing here on the podcast. Martino, I like the Eagles. I'd like them to start out 2-0. Jalen Hurts was a early round pick in my fantasy league. There's a reason why. This guy can get it done in the air, on the ground. And they handle business in kind of in a tough place to play historically. At Belichick, the weather is not always great. The defense is pretty stunning. And the Eagles got up ahead and they did what they needed to do to start the game. Now, they didn't close out well at all. But against a team like the Vikings, who looked miserable, had some, self-imposed wounds, fumbling the ball every other possession, it seemed like Kirk Cousins on the snap. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to get this one done against the Vikings, and it's going to be a tough start up there in Minnesota.
I agree with you on that one. I'm taking the Eagles as well. The Eagles looked efficient on Sunday. They did have the slip up with their defense and giving up the slight comeback from the Patriots. Though they proved it when they put up 17 points in the first quarter, you can kind of cruise to the end. So they kind of took their foot off the gas when they shouldn't have. But nonetheless, the Vikings, you're right, had self-imposed wounds. They took Tampa Bay not lightly at all, so they came back to bite them in the butt. So I'm taking the Eagles. There's no way I think Kirk Cousins can beat Jalen Hurts.
Martin, moving on to the Raiders. Going to take a trip to Buffalo. Now, the Bills didn't have things go right on Monday night, and it looked like they were going to get a victory, a nice, easy victory, as Aaron Rodgers goes down, pops the Achilles. We'll have some more comments on that, of course, later when we get around to the Jets. That's massive, massive news. Make sure to stick around for that. But the Raiders, I called their victory last week against the Broncos. They got it done on the road. You come in now to week 2, the Bills, they're trying to shake things around. Stephon Diggs, that's a serious rumor. Those are some serious things going on in the locker room over there. And I got to tell you, the Bills, if you're a Bills bettor, if you're a Bills fan, you can't be feeling too happy, too optimistic about this team going forward. But with all that said, a 9.5-point spread, I think the Raiders will cover, but I'd be a madman to pick the Raiders over the Bills in this one. I got to go with the Bills.
I agree with that. The thing I probably did forget about was that Jimmy Garoppolo, McDaniels, they were in New England. The verbiage is the same. The offense is the same. So he understands what they're looking at. They do have Jacoby Myers. He understands that offense. So they may have implemented a bunch of New England stuff that Denver wasn't ready or did not expect to come out. Russell Wilson didn't look totally bad for the Broncos. They just missed a few opportunities on offense. I think they'll fix that this week. But to the Bills and the Raiders, I'm taking the Bills. Josh Allen looked bad against a great defense. I don't think he'll look bad against an average defense. I'm taking the Bills.
The Ravens travel to Baltimore. Yeah, Baltimore's traveling to Cincinnati. That's what we got. An AFC West showdown. Ravens at Bengals. Cincinnati -3.5. Martino, it could be argued that Joe Burrow looked the worst out of all 32 quarterbacks that we saw start an NFL game this past weekend. But I think he's going to bounce back. This has kind of been a trend for the Bengals. They kind of start slow, especially in week 1. By the end of the season, you're calling them a top 3 Super Bowl contender. This year will probably be the same, barring injury. We always got to say that now when it comes to the health and safety of these quarterbacks. There wasn't a lot of impressive stuff either from the Ravens. Taking on the Texans in week 1. Even if you get a lopsided win against the Texans, is that really saying much, especially in C.J. Stroud's first game? I'm not quite sure. This one's more about the Bengals, though, and my overall trust for this team to handle business. Joe Mixon, 56 yards on the ground. Jamar Chase, 39 yards in receiving. I think those numbers are both going to go up. It wasn't a great day for any fantasy owner who had a Cincinnati Bengal on their squad last Sunday. That's all going to change in week 2. I got the Bengals taking this one.
This is an interesting matchup. This is going to be a fun matchup. You bring up the Ravens. They didn't look totally impressive against the Texans. They did their thing. They lost J.K. Dobbins again, which is kind of sad for J.K. I don't know how many times he's going to go through these injuries before he realizes he might just not be NFL ready. And I really feel for the kid because he wants to live out his dream, and none of us can hate on that. The Bengals struggled. They did. The Browns got them. They looked at what Jamar Chase said. They said, "Oh, you're not coming into Cleveland doing that to us." I have a feeling that the Bengals will bounce back, but I'm taking the Ravens. Zay Flowers unlocked something on that offense for the Ravens. He was open all day against the Texans. I have to believe that he'll be open again because all the pressure will be on Odell Beckham Jr. to be covered. I think Lamar figured out something with Zay. I think they figured out something with his offense with no Mark Andrews. I'm picking the Ravens in this upset.
Moving on to the Chiefs visiting the Jaguars. Martino, I saw there's an Instagram page I follow. It's called BR Betting, and it definitely gives you a different perspective on the NFL, the NBA, lots of different sports leagues. Kind of just fills you in on who's the favorite according to the experts. Martin, I saw a stat that they posted that the Chiefs, I believe, are 13-3 or something like that, and when coming off a loss, maybe under Mahomes in their last couple of years or so. Martin, but I feel like some of these pages are cursed out there, and it almost goes the other way every time they promote something like that. I think the Jags are going to handle business, not because of some social media curse, but I think Trevor Lawrence is legit. 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 241. Really similar stats when you're looking at Mahomes and Lawrence, the differential there. Travis Kelce, I picked the Chiefs to lose before we even had word that Kelce was out, or even before the injury even took place. And I think the Chiefs are going to be off to a slow start here. I think the Jags really come out here, grab the Chiefs by the throat, do what they need to do, and they're going to go up. They're going to go up 2-0 early in the season. I think the Chiefs have too many questions at wide receiver. The defense can be suspect at times, although this year it's looking pretty improved. I'll give them credit. Week one was nice, but you never know where that could lie on the spectrum of how consistently they do this season. Overall, I got to go with T-Law and the Jags.
I'm stuck in a position here where I want to take the Chiefs, but being a fantasy owner of Trevor Lawrence, I have to side with Trevor Lawrence on this one. And I hate to say it, and I think it's official, Matt Nagy's a terrible offensive coordinator, and I should have known that back when he was calling plays for Chicago. It was just going to be bad. I don't know what Andy Reid has up his sleeve. They don't have any more tricks. Orlando Brown Jr. is not there anymore. Tyreek's not there anymore. Chris Jones missed a week. He is back. But I think finally someone found a chisel on that Chiefs armor, and I actually do think the Jaguars have a chance. I think their offense is just too much.
So me and Martin are both taking the Chiefs to lose, but I think we both probably will have the Chiefs deep in the postseason when it's all said and done. Chargers at Titans. Vegas says it's going to be a 3-point win for the Chargers. I just don't know if I can trust this Chargers team, Martin. I was watching the Dolphins-Chargers game, watching back the highlights. I feel like this team had plenty of opportunities to win, but that defense is not the defense that we thought it was going to be. Any of the last 3 seasons, the Chargers coming in with hype. This year, the hype may have died down just a little bit. Nevertheless, I'm not confident in this team, especially when they're going against a team like the Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel, Derrick Henry, they like to slow things down, be methodical. Martin, they almost beat the Saints on the road, and Tannehill had 3 picks. I mean, they're as good as you can get with a team with terrible quarterback play, in my opinion. I think the Titans play a different facet, a different type of ball than the Chargers do. It's a complete swap. And given that it's in Tennessee, it's got to favor their style. Justin Herbert was good. He had some nice throws. He brought him back late. But time and time again, the defense, the clock mismanagement, you could argue, with Coach Staley, might buy them again. I got the Titans in a close one.
The Chargers. That's what I said. That's what I was telling myself when they had that first down and 10 before Justin Herbert threw the intentional grounding when he was trying to get the screen out and got second down and 20, and then the Chargers chargered. I mean, the Chargers always charger. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Justin Herbert's getting beat up for no reason. I can't even take the Titans in this one. I don't trust Ryan Tannehill. He threw 3 bad interceptions. They weren't even like tip balls. They weren't even like just like, oh, well, that was just a good play by the DB. They were just bad throws, plain and simple. They were just as bad as throws as Josh Allen made last night with the 30 interceptions. So this is like either picking you want to get shot where you stand or you want to suffer a slow and painful death. You really don't win, but you have to pick a winner. I'm going Chargers. I just feel like maybe their offense will find a click. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, maybe they can do something against that Henry offense and that running game. Maybe they can put enough pressure on Tannehill to make him scared. I'm taking the Chargers on the road.
So a rare split so far in our Week 2 predictions, as I pick the Titans, Martin's picking the Chargers. Moving to the Week 2 slate, speaking of 2, a 2-point favorite are the Green Bay Packers. Just as we beat the buzzer on the timer, Martin, look at that. Here's what I know about the Falcons, Martin. Yes, they beat my Panthers Week 1. Yes, they took over in the second half. But Martin, I know this ATL squad is very inconsistent. I believe that. It's very clear when you're watching a football game how much a play caller, a quarterback coach, an OC, a head coach, even the teammates around him, trust a quarterback to make meaningful plays down the field. That's not what they do with Desmond Ridder. He was 15 of 18. Short little dinks and dunks. 1 touchdown, 115 in the air. That's not much at all. Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson might be the best 1-2 punch at running back in the league, however, which is going to be great for managing the clock. Desmond Ridder doesn't throw interceptions, and I really like that. But in 2023, you know who doesn't either? Jordan Love. He threw 3 touchdowns, no picks, 245, 15 to 27. Aaron Jones had some nice plays here and there. He actually led them in both receiving and rushing. And if Kyle Pitts is going to be your leading receiver for the Falcons with just 2 grabs, that's not enough faith in the passing game. And if the Packers are going to look this well-oiled this early into the season, knowing the inconsistencies I know of the Falcons in my division, the NFC South with the Panthers, I got to go with Green Bay.
I'm not even going to waste too much time on this one. I'll never pick the Green Bay Packers. You know me. I'm a diehard Bears fan. There'll never be a day where I pick the Green Bay Packers for anything. I don't care if the Green Bay Packers went up against a junior high school football team. I still would pick the junior high school football team over the Green Bay Packers. The Falcons' running game looked solid. I believe in it. Hopefully it continues. So I'm taking the Falcons.
Martin's fandom and perhaps hatred guiding his direction with the picks in Week 2. This is the Coin Flip Podcast. Jacob Zimmerman, Martin Kelly, moving through our Week 2 predictions in the National Football League. Following Week 1, Seahawks at Lions. Detroit, 6-point favorite at home. Martin, as I restart our clock here, I like Detroit. I like Detroit in this one, given what they did against the Kansas City Chiefs. But kind of like the Falcons, I wonder the consistency of the Lions as well. Now the Seahawks, I feel like I said a lot of things coming into the season about the Seahawks. But one thing I know for sure is that the Seahawks might have one of the broadest ranges of how they could finish this year. I think I saw people predict them to go as good as 12-5. I think I've even seen people to predict them as low as, 7-10. It's a very broad spectrum for the Seahawks. This game could be one that really determines how well they do throughout the season. But given the momentum Detroit now has, given the spark that must have been for the city. I mean, that's their biggest win in how many years? How many decades, for crying out loud, was that a win for, opening the year, defending champion Chiefs? They get it done. They're going to ride the momentum. They're going to get it done in another close one against the Seahawks.
So, Lions or Seahawks? That's an interesting point. And you bring up a lot of great points for the Lions. That was their biggest win in a while. Lions or Seahawks? Lions or Seahawks? Good. I'm going Lions. I'll pick the Lions in this one. I think the Lions defense is better than the Seahawks defense. The Seahawks defense did look pretty suspect against that Rams team. Like I said, like we mentioned at the beginning of the top of the show, Puka Nacua, I mean, your former teammate, stood out in that game. He had all day to catch anything, whatever he wanted, and Geno Smith was getting killed all week. I mean, all day in that game. I'm taking the Lions.
Moving on now is the Colts going to be taking on the Texans. Indianapolis, a 1-point favorite, as they travel to Texas. This is going to be a true battle of the rookie QBs. This one could be an ugly one with a lot of turnovers, a lot of reliance on the ground game for both sides. Anthony Richardson did have that nice rushing touchdown. They don't have a lot, to really work with outside of him in the ground attack. Michael Pittman Jr. coming off a nice performance with 97 yards in the air. Overall, with C.J. Stroud and the Texans, I think when you especially look at how they finished last year, there's just not enough talent on this team overall. I know Will Anderson's there. They're a nice addition. But I feel like the Colts showed a little bit more poise in Week 1 against a team that you can almost have locked to get into the playoffs in the Jags. The Ravens are, kind of on the inside looking out, the outside looking in, depending on how you look at them. So I'm going to go with the Colts based off of their stability in Week 1.
We had a conversation earlier in the year about which of these top three rookie quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Bryce Young, would have a better season. So far, Anthony Richardson is leading that case with, a couple of throwing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown against the Jaguars, and really took the Jaguars almost to the brink of possibly an upset if a few things offensively go his way instead of not. Houston didn't look good. Defensively, they had some moments. Offensively, they look lost. I am going to take the Colts. Anthony Richardson looks solid. They look like they have a game plan on how to get him going. They don't look like they're mismanaged. I think Houston just doesn't have a right OC right now to get C.J. Stroud any opportunities. I'll take the Colts.
Moving through the Week 2 slate, Bears going to Buccaneer Town, Martin. First time in this edition of the podcast predictions that we're talking about one of our teams here this week around. Martin, your Bears coming off of a tough loss to Green Bay in Week 1, and the Buccaneers coming off of a shocking win in Minnesota on Sunday. Martin, Tampa Bay is a 3-point favorite in this one, and as much as I want to pick the Bears, because I don't have a lot of faith in this Tampa Bay team whatsoever. Martin, I can't get burned. I can't get burned by picking your Bears 2 weeks in a row. That's all this pick is really going to come down to. I'm just not doing it.
You know exactly where I'm going with this. It doesn't matter what they do throughout the rest of the season. I've been through enough bad seasons in my life too that they owe me a lot of money and time and love, but they won't ever pay me back for that one. I'm never taking against anybody against the Bears. The Bears' problem is simple. Their offensive coordinator is not good, and they won't fire him, and they won't sell their team, and they won't find a real reason to win games, and they won't give the city of Chicago what they really want, which is the champion. They really won't just stop. So, nonetheless, I'm taking Chicago.
The Giants and the Cardinals both coming off losses from Week 1. The Commanders with Arizona, the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, the 40-point blowout. Everybody knows about that one. And the giant doubt is going to start creeping in. The one-year wonder calls for Coach Brian DeBall are going to start creeping in here pretty quickly in the New York market. But this team knows what's going to happen if they lose to the Cardinals. They know this. They know their season's over already if they're going to lose to this Arizona Cardinals team. They're going to rally around Saquon. They're going to get it done. They're going to shake off the contract talk rust that sort of plagued this team in training camp. Darren Waller, I believe he was the leading receiver from week 1. Yes, he was, with 3 receptions and 36 yards. If your leading receiver posts that stat line, you're screwed. 2 interceptions for Daniel Jones. He got him out the way against the best defense in the league, in my opinion. Now, there's no way I'm going to predict a Josh Dobbs victory with the Cardinals. I'm going to go with the Giants.
I'm going with the Giants as well. Josh Dobbs is a really good kid. I hope one day he succeeds at something else besides football in his life, because he deserves that, because he's been a really good kid his entire life. And he's been a pretty solid, career backup quarterback in the NFL. Most guys can't even make it past a year. He's made it past 7 seasons, so congratulations to him on that one. I'm sorry for him that he has to play for the Arizona Cardinals, but the Giants are just a little bit better. As long as they can figure out how to hand the ball to Saquon Barkley, give him a running lane, he'll run the entire Cardinals out of the building. Give me the Giants.
Martin, as we reset the clock here, 3 minutes, we might go the full distance on this one because this is an intriguing matchup. This is the best underdog play I think I like of the entire week. San Francisco, -8. Now, I know they just went into Steeler Town up there in Pittsburgh and put an absolute shutdown to that offense that had a lot of hype going into year 2 with Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. The double P combo did nothing but put up 7 points. Now, San Francisco could pretty much have any distraction imaginable in the offseason and still go out there and dominate. Brock Purdy had a couple nice plays that made the difference in week 1. But Martin, it's time for the underdog pick of the week. I'm taking Rams money line because, like I said in week 1, if Cooper Kupp is healthy, now he's not healthy right now. If Aaron Donald's healthy, Matthew Stafford's healthy, if their core is there, I like it. Well, Martin, it seems like now they can miss Cooper Kupp and still be fine because, for crying out loud, Puka Nacua went crazy with 119 yards. It's great to see that guy succeed, not only on the next level in college, but then into the third level, into the pros. You get to see him play on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This guy's a stud all the way. Tutu Atwell right there with him with 119 yards as well. So both sides of the ball, both sidelines you gotta keep an eye out for. I like the Rams pulling off an upset stunner. Somehow they have the home field advantage there in SoFi, and I think they're going to use it. I think the 49ers may overlook this one somehow just a bit, if that's even possible.
So the 49ers have the Rams, and then they have the Giants next week. They have the Giants at home. It'll be their first home game of the entire season, as most teams have already gotten their home games last week or getting their home games this week. The Rams are the only team that start on the road for 2 games to start the season. I'm not picking against the Niners in this one. Brock Purdy, he looked like Joe Montana back there. Run CMC, was all over the place. Brandon Ayuk was Jerry Rice all day with picking the ball and scoring 2 touchdowns. The 1980s 49ers came back out and dominated the Steelers. I'm not picking them against the Los Angeles.
The Dallas Cowboys are now at home, and they'll be taking on the New York Jets, the Aaron Rodgers-less New York Jets. Mark, before we get into this pick, let's just give our thoughts here briefly on the Aaron Rodgers situation. This man did not even get to complete a pass as a New York Jet first drive, and he is done. A really unfortunate situation where quarterback's going down, he's losing his footing, he's trying to stay up, the much bigger, heavier defender is collapsing on him. The wet but tight turf, you don't know if you're going to slip or if your cleat's going to get caught. And, his heel kind of got caught against the floor as he was bending forward, and the Achilles popped. And it sucks to see as an overall, fan of the game of football, especially with a figure like Aaron Rodgers. If you hate him or if you love him, it just sucks to see injuries be a part of the game. And it sucks to see such a massive storyline in the NFL all of a sudden just get sniped and put to rest for the entire season after 5 minutes into week 1.
This is going to be a fun one. Dallas showed up against the Giants on Sunday night. The Jets had a fun game. It's sad to see Aaron Rodgers go down. I'm still taking the Cowboys.
Cowboys and Jets for the game overall. I got to go with the Cowboys. I think they're going to terrorize Zach Wilson, although he held it together at times. It's going to be tough. This is going to be a double-digit point win for the Cowboys in my eyes. Both me and Martino riding with the boys. Martin, moving on to our next matchup here on the Coin Flip Podcast. The Commanders at the Broncos. This is going to be a stink fest, a classic under in my opinion. 3.5 is Denver. From what I know, I can't trust Denver at all, especially Russell Wilson nowadays. Sean Payton's tried to come in and turn things around. Late in the season it could be different, but for right now it's looking like the same old Broncos of 2022. He didn't have an interception. I'll give him credit for that. The running game is still suspect. Williams only had 52 on the ground. Samaje Perine, a nice kind of newer player to the NFL here, 37 yards in the air. And the Commanders are going to be too good, though. The Commanders are going to be too good. I know they looked a little suspect against the Arizona Cardinals at times. This team has a massive question at quarterback still going forward. But I trust in Terry McLaurin to make some plays here and there to get him by, even though he's a little bruised up. I think the Commanders are going to win as an underdog.
I'm going to take the Broncos in this one. The Commanders' defense is good. I don't trust their offense. They survived enough against the Cardinals. There was a couple scares there towards the end of the game where the Cardinals really could have taken that game. Samaje P. Ryan has been a solid running back in this league. We'll figure out about Williams. I think as long as Russell Wilson doesn't turn the ball over and finds Cortland Sutton, they could win this game, taking the Broncos.
Patriots are at home and a 2.5 point underdog, I might add, against the Dolphins. So the Patriots going to find themselves kind of as back-to-back underdogs to start off the season. A team, a franchise really that has a lot of hype every year. But, Martin, when you look at that game against the Eagles in week 1, a lot of key plays came down to receivers getting their toes in bounds. And I feel like that kind of summarizes in a nutshell what this team is lacking. This team has Bill Belichick. This team is, the greatest franchise in the history of sports. But Martin, this team is just not that talented. There's only so much you can do when you're lacking receiver talent, when you're lacking an elite running back. Zeke Elliott went out there and fumbled the football. Mac Jones is not a superstar that's going to turn this franchise, turn this offense around. He's not Tom Brady, unfortunately. He doesn't even have the weapons that Brady had out there at this point. I got to go with the Dolphins. I loved their week 1 performance. I think they're going to light it up at Patriots.
In this one, I am going to take the Dolphins as well. The Dolphins are just too good. I don't know where this performance came from. Tua, he looked like Dan Marino out there. Tyreek Hill, it was amazing to watch. It was amazing to see it, go back-to-back on that day. I'll take the Dolphins as well.
Moving on now to the Saints at the Panthers in Charlotte. Martin, I was going back and forth on this game. Now, Bryce Young did not look too good in his debut. I'll be the first to tell you that. This is a pair of Monday Night Football games, by the way. A pair of them. New Orleans going to town after their ugly win against Tennessee. They're now on the road Carolina was on the road to start. They're back at home. And I got to feel like the rookie is going to play a little bit better on his home turf. Miles Sanders had a couple decent plays here and there as we messed up with the timer and restarted it. Miles Sanders had some plays here and there. Hayden Hurst, who I thought was going to be an underrated target coming into the season, did have a touchdown grab, did lead them in the receiving. But it's really unfortunate with DJ Chark out, with Adam Thielen kind of banged up, with Mingo just out there as a rookie. The Panthers don't have much offensive talent as I maybe thought coming into this league, coming into the season. Martin, the defense is even better than I thought, though. I picked them up in fantasy. It's going to be a huge addition. Brian Burns was making plays all over the field. And dare I do it? I got to pick this home one. I got to pick the home one in division. Saints on the road. I don't like it at all. I'm going to rock with the Panthers. The homer pick coming out.
I can't blame you for that one. I did the homer pick earlier, and it's just how it goes in sports and all that. I'm taking the Saints. I think the Saints defense has got to figure something out here. I think the offense didn't look terrible. I didn't like their play calling specifically, but, they did have Chris Olave. They did have Michael Thomas out there. They did have Jamal Williams. They did have their weapons, so they did show their cards. We'll see what they can come up with week 2. I still trust Derek Carr. I'll take the Saints.
Closing out the week 2 predictions in the National Football League here on the Coin Flip Podcast, Jacob Zimmerman and Martin Kelly. The Steelers are at home to try to get revenge after their ugly week 1 loss, so back-to-back Pittsburgh games for the Steelers. The Browns are going to be on the road. Now, I really like Nick Chubb. I think they have some weapons on the outside as well. I think Deshaun Watson can have some glimpses of what he once was. However, I got to roll with the Steelers. I'm still high on them this season. I like their odds to bounce back. I'm going to roll with them at home. I think they figure something out with Pickens and Pickett. I think they get it together. At least for this one, I gotta go with the trend here on the Monday night picks early in the season in these home divisional games. The Steelers are going to find a way.
The Browns will find a way. Deshaun Watson looked comfortable as he did probably in a couple years. He looked solid on Sunday afternoon against the Bengals. The Bengals defense is not terrible, but it's not great. I'm taking the Browns on the road. Just give the ball to Nick Chubb. Give Deshaun Watson enough time to find Amari Cooper and Peoples-Jones. He'll make a difference. Taking Cleveland. So
after a pretty solid week of week 1, Martin, I know you had your doubts about how good week 1 would be. I think from our personal team biases aside, I think it was a pretty solid week 1 in the NFL. Week 2, who knows? It might be even better. Can't wait to find out. That's Martin Kelly. I'm Jacob Zimmerman. Martin, do you have any last predictions you want to make? I know you kind of said something last week, and I want to give you your chance to do it again. You said you had an MVP pick of the week. Now, you said it was Geno Smith. That didn't work out too great. But who's going to be your MVP of week 2, Martino?
Well, I'll double down on the West Coast run here. I'll even double down against the Rams. Brock Purdy has the MVP response of the week. I think as long as they can keep him healthy on the offensive line, I think he won't have a Tua Tagovailoa type game. That came out of nowhere. I should have picked him for the MVP of the week. But I'm going to take Brock Purdy. I have a feeling that he'll be all right. I think he'll be good. I just think they're going to be solid. The Niners-Rams rivalry is fun.
So those are our week 2 picks in the National Football League. This is the Coin Flip Podcast. We'll continue on with our pick records here. I won week 1. We'll see if Martin can get revenge, perhaps take the overall lead after week 2. I'm Jacob. That's Martin. Have yourself a great day.
Peace.